Town, located in the province of Yamai. As the month of freezing earth made its debut for the year, this remote little town far from the center of the Goldspink Empire suddenly welcomed a team of knights clad in silver armor, holding banners with the family emblem above their ranks. Parcel, an old scholar living in the town, widened his eyes and began to shiver in a cold sweat upon seeing the emblem on these banners. A python entangled around a full moon with a fierce tiger stomping upon its body. Dim was the only blacksmith in the town, and also a neighbor of Parcel. He noticed the unusual expression on Parcel's face. Not putting down the hookah he had been smoking, he asked Parcel in wonder, "Hey, old pal, look at you. You know where these riders are coming from?" Taking a deep breath, Parcel whispered to Dim, "If my eyes do not fail me, that is the mark of the family emblem of the Morn family." "The Morns!" Dim could hardly look back at Parcel in shock. "Are you absolutely sure?" Without waiting for an answer, Dim jolted, realizing something, and dashed into his small blacksmith shop, shutting the door like a coward. Through the glass window of the shop, Parcel saw a trembling figure of Dim and shook his head. This nasty pair would normally joke with each other in a situation like this, but the Morn family had visited the Gru town today out of the blue. Considering how powerful they were in the Empire, Dim had all the reason to be terrified like this. Now, Parcel recalled hearing those rumors in the Hunter's Pub city back in the day. The Morn family had been called the backbone of the Goldspink Empire. At least six great military generals had emerged from it during the centuries before, earning unparalleled merit against several foreign invaders. Besides, none of the family members languished in the back during all those wars. Every single one of them was brave and cunning warriors fighting on the front line. It was only natural that such a formidable and celebrated family had seized control of all the military affairs in the Goldspink Empire. Recently, military conflict was imminent between the Empire and its neighbor, the Highland Imperials. The border of the Highland Imperials was not far from Grootown. Perhaps the Knights of Morn had come just for this reason. Now, Parcel could only think of two possible outcomes to their arrival. They either came to recruit slash set up defenses, or maybe they came to do both. However, either meant deadly news for Dim the blacksmith. It was clearly written in the law of conscription that every family must, in every family in every town that fell within the area of conscription, had to provide a young adult or 100 pieces of gold for a conscription token. Dim was the only able male in his family and was at a prime age for recruitment. He also knew that if he went away for war, his wife and daughter would have absolutely no means for survival. As for the coins, the only family in the entire empire that might have enough, sorry, in the entire town that might have enough for the fee was the Pat family. Hell, one piece of gold was enough to support the Dim family for a whole year. Parcel got a shock quick enough. Anyways, an old bachelor like him, he had nothing to worry about. He kicked the bucket soon enough. He had enough to think about with the Moore family on his mind. They did not go to the town mayor, so they're not here to recruit. Parcel kept watching as the iron hooves moved in one direction and then the other, towards the mansion of Viscount Pat, a place that still bloomed with grass and flowers even in the month of freezing earth, in the Pat Manor. A pair of maids wearing cold, cream colored linen headscarves were chattering during their work. They were talking about the two sons of the Pad family. Master and mistress passed away only 2 moons ago. According to the law of the Empire, in the month of frost following this month of freezing earth, the eldest master will inherit the family title. The maiden with the apple shaped face said with a hint of worry, "I wonder what will become of the young master after that." Ari, let's not talk about the family business as servants. Personally, though, I don't think you should worry at all. You probably don't know because you were working in the tea garden, far from the mansion. But the two masters are quite close to each other. Those conflicts you read about in the drama books, they won't happen here. The maid with the pockmarked face giggled. The sound of hooves came from the narrow trail outside the garden. Soon a rider wearing shining bronze armor appeared in front of the maids. He halted his horse at the garden entrance and removed his helmet. He was a vigorous young man with brown hair, and the sunlight somewhat deepened the lines and curves of his face, giving the already handsome man, well, an extraordinary look. Those gray and green irises that swept past the maids and finally fixed upon the middle-aged maid standing beside Ari. Greetings to you, handmaid Mana. Mana dropped the basket she had been holding and bowed to the knight. Greetings, Master Leon. Leon looked at the freshly picked tea leaves in the basket and said, "My brother went to that old man again?" Question mark. Mana lowered her head and replied with curtsy, "Yes, Master Angor went to study at Mr. John's." Leon twitched his lip and muttered to himself, "Ha, study? What the heck is going on with that old geezer, talking about his fallacy all day? Now brother learns from him and gives him tea too? That man is a psycho. I have no idea why my brother consists on going there." Now he pulled the reins in annoyance. "I see. You can continue your work. I will go look for him." With that, Leon gave his horse a soft kick and trotted away. A while later, Leon came to the southeast corner of the mansion, where an exquisitely designed wooden house, supported by suspension stilts, sat on a small hill near the woods. It was raising eaves and two parallel levels. Only one side of the house actually touched the earth. The other three stayed in the air, merely supported by steel pillars. No matter how you looked at it, this wooden house didn't fit in amongst the structures of the Goldsmith Empire. Leon couldn't even recall seeing such similar buildings during his travels in the other nations. What a curious house, Leon thought to himself. It looks sturdy, though most don't have as much solid ground. Leon was still frustrated about how the old man occupied too much of his brother's time and did not occupying too much of his brother's time. However, that really did not stop that did not stop him from admiring the amazing craftsmanship of the structure. He just didn't show it on his face. Besides, it was the house that Leon was interested in, not in John himself. Perhaps this was a common sight whence John had come. Leon never figured out where this had been, even though John had been living at the manor for nearly 20 years. Pushing open the wooden bars, Leon saw some vegetables and fruit growing nearby in the garden. There were some withered veins crawling in the racks nearby. They grew hanging clusters in the mark of harvest, and John called them grapes. Leon remembered their sweet taste, however, it was currently off season. Behind the bamboo door of this house was a young man with a handsome look, swiftly writing down on the parchment rolls using his quill and ink. Leon approached him, trying to be soft in his steps, but those bronze armored boots still produced a heavy noise on the floor. "Ah, you're here." The young man put a period on the parchment and looked up at the visitor, his voice clearly filled with a friendly passion. "Angor, my dear brother, you sound as if you knew I would come." Leon smiled. Angor shrugged and grinned. No, that would make me, but this will make me more proactive." "You learned this from the old man too?" Angor shook his head. "No one needs to teach me that. Our father used to talk like this anyways." "So, if someone misinterprets your will and doesn't talk at all, how will you start the conversation then?" Leon raised his eyebrow. "Well, I'll just stay silent and wait for it." "What if the man does the same?" Angor curled his lip. "Ah, that would be embarrassing. I think I'll just turn to leave, lest I get embarrassed and continue whatever there is if he decides to stop me." Leon only smiled and nodded without giving comment. He then looked around the room. Where Where is good old John? Hearing this, Angor frowned a little bit and showed a bit of worry. You know, every day, teacher's body is getting worse. Every part of him is wilting. His legs now completely gave in the day before yesterday. He just applied his medicine and is now resting upstairs.